So many people I know are struggling these days. Hi, this is Dale Byron, and this is Heart Work Podcast. And I want to talk a little bit and bring a poem today, which I think is pertinent to this theme of how do we stay more present, or how do we stay present with political happenings, with happenings that are happening ecologically, and how do we stay more sane, more centered, and more effective in our activities. That kind of brings me a little bit before I talk about the poem I want to bring, which is a poem I wrote not too long ago called How Not to Struggle So Much in Dark Times, very much with the subject. But just to kind of reiterate for those who may be new to the podcast, what we're up to here, why I do this. Well, I can say why I do this podcast and my long love affair with poetry and engagement with poetry for three reasons, three words describe it: head, heart, and hands. Head, because a good poem, I believe, brings gifts for the intellect, for our strategic mind, for understanding the world. In terms of the heart, a good poem brings emotional resonance, brings feelings, brings an intuitive sense of the world, and all those things which are emotive in our lives. And finally, hands, head, heart, hands. If we get our head and heart together, there's a lot better chance that our hands are going to be engaged in more skillful and wise actions. So that's exactly why I do what I do and have for so many years, this business and this work with poetry. So the poem today, back to the theme, is called again, How Not to Struggle So Much. It's not that we're not going to struggle, we are, but how not to struggle so much in dark times. And the poem goes like this. Friends, we're just trying to understand as one, as many as earth, to hold things a little more lightly. Sincere, yes, but not so serious. To hold our fears close where we can keep a keen eye on them. Slow our lives and bodies down, slow our lives and bodies down. Feel the sky, trees, seek more silence. Listening for small islands of coherence, places promised by wisdom. And may we also be humble, surprised, uncertain as the teeth are big. So won't you join us? Help us feel along, bore through solid rock. Help us to acknowledge but not indulge the bone-deep weariness of one catastrophe after another, so that a wild, untrammeled awareness might find us again. Tethering ourselves to a fire-tested hope inside us, these simple desires for glimpsing the actual thing of it, the real, the flow, the place where spirit rises up, without struggle, to see, to feel, to know, to see, to feel, to know. Now, if that poem appealed to you, I hope that there were some ideas. I hope that some of the images and the words and the sounds of the words maybe had a little effect in terms of how you're feeling about the world, and also that it may give you ideas about what now to do with your hands, how not to struggle so much, in this world. I like the line, when I said, and may we also be humble, surprised, uncertain as the teeth are big. And I think that that is a notion. I wrote a poem some time ago called the wisdom, is sort of like the wisdom of uncertainty, the wisdom of not knowing. And the idea there is that if we're going to be in the world in a present and hopefully wiser way, then we're not going to jump to conclusions. We're going to be open. We're going to be uncertain to the extent that it allows us to learn to take in new information. So that's what I mean about being uncertain as the teeth are big, the teeth being the problem, the challenge, of course. And then when I say acknowledge but do not indulge, acknowledge but do not indulge the bone deep weariness of one catastrophe after another. One of the wonderful mentors, teachers in my life in studying Aikido was the Aikido teacher and writer, very bright person, George Leonard. And George Leonard used to talk about the idea that we need to acknowledge but not indulge our shadow. And I always love that image that you can acknowledge something that's difficult. In this case, I'm talking about bone deep weariness of one catastrophe after another, but not indulge it, not sink down into being frozen by the difficulty. I think that's what this poem is getting at. You know, so often I say that if the poet is not surprised, then the reader or the listener of the poem will not be surprised either. And when I was writing this, I think that there were a number of surprises when I said so to myself, so that a wild, untrammeled awareness might find us again. So I was trying to find that same untrammeled place in myself as well, because I am struggling with all these same things. In so many meetings that I've been to with friends and colleagues and conversations with, again, friends, colleagues, family, so many of us are struggling. So many of us are struggling. And the question is, can we hitch up that struggling? Can we hitch it up and not be overwhelmed by it, but hitch up the struggling in a way so that we can keep moving one foot in front of another, and hopefully in skillful ways that we can take actions, even small actions, in skillful ways that are a little more wise, that are a little bit more wise. And that's what, for me, poetry is such a important tool for being able to do just that. It's not about, when I use the image and the term fire-tested hope, it's not that we need hope, but we also need fire-tested hope. Fire-tested hope is one where we have met the day, where we are paying attention to what's real, and we're not trying to delude ourselves and pretend that things that are happening in front of us, difficult things, are not so, are not true. But what at the same time we say we're not going to be devastated by those. We're going to bring our head and our heart and our hands to the table, and we're going to keep putting one foot in front of another, politically, ecologically, all of these different things, where a fire-tested hope, an intelligent hope, not hopium, as they say, but an intelligent hope is needed and required to move forward. And I think poetry can help in that way. And then finally, you know, we're trying our simple desire for glimpsing the actual thing of it, the real, the flow. When our life is flowing, it means that we're paying attention, and yet there's still joy inside the grief. There's still happiness inside the difficulty. And so we say, this is the place where spirit rises up, the place where spirit rises up without struggle, to see, to feel, to know. Thank you so much for your listening ear. I really appreciate it. And of course, if you like today's episode, then do a like on whatever platform you're listening or looking at this. that would be great. What it does is it trains the algorithm to have the algorithm say, people want more poetry. What could be wrong with that? People want more poetry. Let's train the algorithm. So subscribe, like the video, or if you're listening on one of the other audio platforms, do the same. Recommend it to somebody else. Let's get more poetry out in the world, shall we? So the struggle will be a little less. Thank you again for your listening ear. Take good care of yourself, and if you can, someone else. And until next time and next poem, we will see you then. Take care.